Welcome to Cut the Crop, keeping you in the know about everything you grow. Researchers, growers and other interesting folk delivering insights and information on topics ranging from agronomy to profitability. Brought to you by the Foundation for Arable Research.
Hello and welcome. I'm Alison Stewart, your host of Cut the Crop, and today we're talking with Keith Gundry from Pure Oil, based in Canterbury. Welcome, Keith.
Thank you, Alison.
And so we're going to talk about oilseed rape, and we're going to be talking about some of the initiatives that Pure Oil have got and that FAR has been involved in. So maybe if we just start off with Keith and just give us a little bit of a background to the work that you've been doing in oilseed rape and what the initiatives are that you're driving at the moment.
Thank you, Alison. Yeah, we've sort of been thinking over the last couple of years of a bit of a change around how we've been doing the oilseed rape and moving away from. We were doing a lot of small projects and they were getting some good information, but we just felt that we needed some broader information. There's a lot of information comes out of the UK and that sort of thing we use in the oilseed rape. So we sort of had this idea in the back of my head that, this monitor farm project, which would look at a larger overview of data sort of thing and bring a lot of that information in. So we sort of obviously approached FAR and now we've got this joint, a collaborative agreement which is looking like it's going to work really well. So we've set that up and, the key behind that is, and it's one of our philosophies at Pure Oil is, two heads are better than one. So that's a bit of a background to it.
So what are you wanting from FAR? I mean, what's FAR bringing to this collaboration?
Yeah, well, I go back to that two heads are better than one. Like, there's a lot of IP and intelligent people in FAR, and so it's picking their brains and working out which way is the best way, what information we should be looking at and that sort of thing. So as terms of a Pure Oil input, we've brought on another person to help with this project and with setting it up. We also FAR funded a new weigh wagon trailer so that we could get yield results at the end of the season.
So talk to us about the monitor farm. Like what do you mean by a monitor farm and what have you been doing on it?
Yeah, so in terms of the monitor farm, so we took a step back this year and basically included about 10 growers and we looked at, a wide range of things over all the current management around the crop and what we were doing sort of thing. So, and it was also a move away from small plot trials, so diversifying that risk and spreading that risk over having small plot trials in one or two places sort of thing. So, and it also, I felt to really build on the research that we had done, it was also important to get that grower engagement. So it was another way of getting growers engaged in the research side of it.
So the focus of the research that's being done is very much on driving, is it just yield per se, or is it consistency, quality? What are the key outcomes that you're trying to achieve?
Yeah, the big one is always yield. As if we can keep increasing yield, we can keep increasing profit back to the growers, and ultimately for us keep them growing oilseed rape. So we obviously Pure Oil New Zealand, we need the growers to supply the crop, and the growers need us for a cropping option sort of thing. So it's sort of, as we try and work it both ways. The growers are a very important part of our business as well, sort of thing. So it's trying to work in with what their needs are and what areas that we were wanting to look into it with the monitor farm project.
So, and what are the experiments that you've been doing?
Yeah, so we did sort of, there was four main areas of focus. We looked at nitrogen, which is always a key one, a topical one of how much nitrogen. It's a reasonably high user of nitrogen. Potassium, we also looked at potassium quite closely this year, and we also looked at a couple of other things. We looked at some biostimulants and so there's a couple of biostimulants. So there's four main areas of the crop really, sort of thing. And then on top of that, we also had a small plot trial went in down at levels looking, that was the third year of a nitrogen trials. So that was basically 3 years of nitrogen trialling sort of thing.
So you've got some nice sort of data sets.
Yeah, so there's some really good data sets coming back from all this sort of thing. So yeah, it's there was, I suppose, a bit of a background on to, there was about 9 or 10 growers all based in South Canterbury. There's about 3 in Waimate, 3 in St Andrews, and 3 in the fairly Pleasant Point area. So we had a spread throughout that area. We tried to keep it, we didn't see any point spreading it outside of that area, just trying to keep it, that information relative in terms of weather patterns and that sort of thing. So
yeah.
Yeah.
And so were you looking at different timings of nitrogen application and, and rates?
Yep.
Yeah.
So in the small plot trial, which was a continuation of the previous years, it was time. It was probably more rates than timing. The timing seemed to stay the same, and yeah, the timing is there's a pretty short window on when you're putting the stuff on. So a week here and there doesn't seem to affect it too much. It's more rates and canopy assessment sort of thing. So. And when we can actually get some rain sort of thing. So,
yeah.
Yeah.
And what were the key findings?
Yeah, well, I suppose talking about rain, last year we had pretty dry conditions throughout the season. I think I worked out, we were at the Timaru station, we were about 430 mils, with the average of about 630 mils. So we're only 2/3 of the rainfall last year. And the other major affecting thing that we had on the crop was had a massive hail event come through start of January, which took out sort of 500-600 hectares of our oilseed rape, unfortunately, and knocked those yields in half, which was pretty disappointing for everyone. And so that limited our data set by quite a bit. So it would have been nice to have all that data there, but we still got some good trends. Our nitrogen information was showing that the average nitrogen sits around that about 180 to get that optimum yield. Also looking at the information of how much growers were putting on versus a small plot trial, that 180, most of the growers were well over that. So that's potentially something we can look at for the coming year, is maybe reducing that nitrogen or being a bit more targeted sort of thing. So
was this though linked to how much N there was in the soil, that they weren't necessarily knowing that and therefore not taking that into account when they were working out their N budgets?
Potentially. What we saw in the monitor farm is guys were probably putting on anywhere from 30 to 50 units more than, I suppose, the small plot trial optimum was showing us, sort of thing. So there was some good trends in the data.
And what about the potassium?
So the potassium was quite interesting. I've had it in the back of my mind the last few years, because potassium is quite key in that reproductive phase, flowering them. If you ever see a oilseed rape crop, quite bright yellow, so real intense. So anywhere we had quite low potassium levels, it affected yield negatively. And as those soil potassium levels increased throughout the monitor farms, we saw a lift in yield. So, and then we also got some good information out of small plot trial to say that once you get over a sort of a certain point of sort of 6 or 7 quick test K level, that yields were actually starting to drop off with high levels of MOP being applied. So just on the alone, the potassium's been really interesting to have a closer look at that one too.
So what's the ultimate goal? Once you've collected more information, are you going to pull this together into some sort of grower crop management manual or something like that, guidelines?
It's probably 2 things actually. It's probably identifying areas for more work-ons, what areas we could need to do a bit more research in, as well as trying to establish a sort of a best practice for the crop. And so there's probably 2 areas of the thing that we're aiming for.
So you mentioned that you tested some biostimulants. Did anything come out of that?
Unfortunately, no. It's always one of those things that gets talked about. So we were quite lucky. We had a couple of stimulants that were already getting used in the paddocks that were out there, and that's the advantage of the monitor farm system, is you can bring things in. It doesn't all have to be set up at once. You can bring things in and work with stuff. So, and we also tried another sort of EM product. Unfortunately, the yields between the control and where we'd applied it were pretty much exactly the same sort of thing. So,
but often these biostimulants will only give you a positive effect if you're working in a stressed environment. I mean, if the crop is already growing reasonably well, then you often don't get the added value of the biostimulants.
Yes.
So it's one of those things that, you have to give it a go and just see. But it can be quite variable, the outcome. So, I mean, just thinking about, you're talking about, good management practice and trying to optimise the consistency of yield. Where are the growers in general sitting? I mean, what is an average yield that they're getting? And is there a big difference between what we're getting at the moment and what the potential is? Or are actually they pretty close to the optimum that you would expect them to be getting?
Well, if you look at worldwide canola or oilseed rape yields, New Zealand's well up there. So in the last year, we were up over the whole 3,000 hectares. We're up over 4 tonne sort of thing. So we're trying to take it to that next level sort of thing. So we've had growers in the 5.5, 6 tonne a hectare crops. And so we know the potential's there. We know we're very good at growing it. It's just finding out what those key parts of the recipe are to get it to that point sort of thing. So,
are you going to be doing any work on the sort of environmental sort of footprint side of the crop? Because obviously, we know that arable growers are going to be increasingly having to show, sort of the, the environmental impacts of their cropping systems. Are you starting to do some work in that space as well?
Definitely. And that's part of the, the first main one is that around that nitrogen use on the crop sort of thing. So, and we get the feeling that, that it is reasonably nitrogen efficient. It certainly puts some deep roots down and, it would suck up nutrients from deep down sort of thing. And because it's such a long crop as well, it's not... it's in the ground 10 months of the year sort of thing. So, yeah. So
how many growers are you contracting at the moment?
So we would have roughly around 60 or 70 growers, of growing the oilseed rape. And then we've probably got another 15 or 16 on some sunflower growers as well sort of thing. So,
and is the plan for that to be reasonably stable, over the next 4 or 5 years, or are you projecting a growth?
We're always trying to grow. Yes, and we'd always look if we can. The plant can handle more, I suppose, is the main thing sort of thing. If we can get more growers on board, certainly. Keen sort of thing. So, because
it fits nicely into an arable rotation.
Yeah.
What kind? I mean, how does it stack up from sort of profitability side of things, gross margin?
Yeah, once we start getting up over that 4 tonne, which is really the goal, and we're starting to achieve that on a pretty regular basis with most growers. And even up to 5 tonne, it starts. If the guys are starting to hit 5 tonne, it's really starting to push some of those other crops at $725 a tonne sort of thing. So so it works well. It needs to be profitable by itself, but it also very good in terms of a rotation with the cereals. So it breaks up that disease pressure. Grass weed problems are becoming more and more of an issue, and I know FAR are doing more work on that sort of thing, and we are also, it's one of the focuses for this coming year is to do a bit more recording of observations of what rates guys are using and that sort of thing, and just making sure that we're doing it right at our end, because there's certain products that you can use on the oilseed rape, which, you know, is completely different to your products that you're using on your cereals to break up that grass resistance problem sort of thing. So, you know, Primicide or the Curb or your Polka products getting used more and more to break up any resistance that we're getting from a clethodim or some of those other grass weed. So yeah, it's a key one for me in the coming few years, and pushing that onto growers as is. If guys have got grass weed problems, you know, it's certainly an option sort of thing. So, yeah.
So are you going back to the same growers each year for the next 3 or 4 years? Or?
Yes. Trying to build that consistency. Yeah. So if we can, we've obviously got a good system in place. Like, you know, we've started that database, and I see it in 3 years' time. Once we get 3 years of data, we're going to have some pretty good trends and learn, you know, some good findings out of it, I suppose. So yeah, it's pretty exciting. I feel. I'm just glad that, you know, FAR have been able to come on board and, you know, just run with the idea, and, you know, just you know, I suppose increasing. There's been a fair bit of increase. It'll increase the amount of research going into the oilseed rape quite a bit, actually. So yeah.
And I mean, you know, I guess with COVID and everything, are you finding that the consumer is more likely to want to buy New Zealand product? Because obviously, you know, when you're in that oil space, there's a huge amount of sort of, you know, cheap imports that, you know, on the supermarket shelf. Are you finding that the New Zealand consumer is looking for the New Zealand product and wanting to buy that?
Yeah. So from what I'm hearing is there is a real push coming back to that New Zealand grown product, you know, and obviously guys are starting to run into logistics issues, bringing stuff in from overseas. But I think there is a growing support for New Zealand growers and, you know, buying food which is grown here, sort of thing. So we're seeing good demand for, you know, a quality cold press oil, really. So yeah.
So it's looking good for pure oil.
I would hope so. I'd hope so. It's exciting for me personally. You know, I feel like there's not many opportunities to work in a job where I can see the seed going in the ground to growing, to being harvested, to being delivered to the plant, to going through the presses, being bottled and sent off to the supermarket. So yeah, I feel like I'm pretty lucky to be in that space. And
of course you have diversified into sunflower as well. So we hope that the sunflower will be as successful as the oilseed rape.
Yeah, well, the sunflower, you know, just building on the success of the oilseed rape, really, and, you know, really seeing an opportunity there for, you know, there was demand in the market for there. So it was just a matter of us getting, you know, working out the agronomics, sorry, of the crop and the best way it fits in with growers, and being another completely different crop as well. Sort of thing, so.
But you presumably do have to have some form of point of differentiation, because the sunflower is high oleic acid, isn't it? Yep. Was the oilseed rape, did it have a particular point of differentiation?
Yeah, the oilseed rape is a high oleic variety as well. Yeah. So the oil that goes into our good oil bottles is all high oleic. So both the sunflower and the oilseed rape. So it's a healthier type of oil. So it is different. Like, you know, a lot of the stuff that comes in from overseas is heavily refined, you know, as a cold pressed, you know, and it's, you know, we're all GE free here too. So, you know, there's those couple of points of difference, and we're obviously New Zealand grown, and, you know, Pure Oil's owned by local people and local farmers. So it's
and I mean, I guess that's why FAR is so supportive of what you're doing, because, you know, we want our growers to be part of, you know, local success stories. And, you know, we want to have diversity in the crop rotation that builds resilience in, you know, in arable cropping. So hopefully it'll be a win-win.
Yes, no, it's exciting, and this project, I think, will just add another level of, it'll just hopefully add another level to take us to that next step. Is the goal, really, sort of thing. So
excellent. Yeah. Well, thank you very much, Keith.
No, thank you very much, Alison. So
okay, and thank you, listeners. Have a great day on the farm.
Thanks for tuning in to Cut the Crop, presented to you by FAR. If you'd like to know more about any of the topics discussed or have any suggestions for future topics, go to www.cutthecrop.co.nz.